Right. So in today's class, we will be looking at the liberal theory. Liberal theory. What sort of an approach does the liberal theory have towards the state? Okay. So first things first. Liberalism is a theory that focuses so much on freedom, right? Individual freedom, the freedom you have as a person. Okay. Now you remember we studied about communism and socialism last week. So in that we saw it's always about us. What is happening with regard to us, right? We. It's about the betterment of everyone. We won't be taking a certain decision unless we are all happy with that. It's about the betterment of everyone, which is why people aren't even allowed to earn as much as they want. It's like we will give you the same amount of money to make sure all of you all get the same amount. Okay. Have you all read this Enid Blind's story, Naughtiest Girl? There's a book series called The Naughtiest Girl. It's about there's this girl called Elizabeth. She goes to this school called Whiteleaf, right? So in that, like the pocket money, everyone has to put all their money into one box, and like you get like £2 every week, everyone. And when they ask like, why do you do that? It was like, because some people don't have any money to spend, some people have too much money to spend. So that school sort of follows the communist theory, right? Kids may come with different amounts of pocket money given by their parents, but you're supposed to put everything into the money box and everyone only gets like, an equal amount. So that's what socialism is about. Socialism wants to make sure everyone is equally satisfied. But liberalism is not about that. Liberalism is about individual freedom, individual happiness. It's about how happy I am, how satisfied I am with my life right now. That's what we are looking at. In other words, liberalism focuses on making sure that your individual autonomy satisfying as possible. If you remember the basics class we did, I told you all to draw a circle and draw one person inside and call that liberalism. And I asked you to draw a second circle and put like many people and call that socialism. And I asked you to draw a circle and put like a flag or a country and say that fascism, because that's what they focus on. Liberalism focuses on the one person. You have to make sure that every person as an individual is happy with their life, happy with his or her life. Compared to that, you have what do you call socialism, where it's about making everyone's equally happy, right? Thirdly, you have fascism, which is about doing what's best for the state, what's best for the country. So when it comes to liberalism, it's about making your individual autonomy. My space, it's all about my space. Do I have my rights? All of us are allowed to think, do I have my rights? Do I have my space? Do I get my opportunities? Do I get what I deserve? That's what the concern is about. Okay. So how did this start? This started following the, following the feudalism. During feudalist times, we had kings and aristocrats and all that. So because of that, these kings and monarchs controlled all of us, right? We were supposed to behave the way the kings expected us to behave, right? During monarchies, you don't get freedom. You are supposed to behave the way your monarch expects you to behave, right? So this normal example I go to, right? When the king goes like sightseeing, if he sees a pretty girl, he was like, okay, put her to my that city where like I keep all my girls, right? So well, again, online shopping will add to cart, right? You see a pretty girl, you like add to cart, right? So if you class like we are doing the class and this king may come and be like, okay, who is that? Sharon Lawrence, put her to my castle, right? And you see like, the guys in the class trying to defend it. It's like, you are not taking Sharon away like that. And that's not going to happen, right? If the king says he wants to take Sharon, and like the king can take Sharon. But then king won't be able to listen to her fussing all the time. He'll be like, oh my God, you go back to your class. I had enough with you, and send her back. Okay. Anyways, That's how things like, it can be like gruesome and bad also, right? It can be like maybe the king would see me and like, I am teaching you all to be like, be free and like don't give in to all these monarchies and be democratic and all that, and the king may kill me. That's how things work. Things weren't the best during the monarchical times, right? If you watch these movies from the medieval days and all that, you can see it wasn't the best. It was not the best time to be alive. Okay. So during this time, we can see that is actually a problem of the kings and the monarchs completely dominating and controlling people. And people were sick of this. People were really, really sick of like the rulers really, controlling us, and it's being difficult to live. So by the time the medieval era ended, people were like, you know what? Enough of this. We need to be free. We need to be able to have a class like this in the outside, where the leader of the country can walk by, but he can't take whoever the girl he wants, right? Or he can't simply say, kill that person, kill this person. It was like, no, enough of that. People should be able to have their freedom, the free life, the liberty of humans. So this is when the liberal theory came into existence. Okay. So the liberal theory suggested that humans are capable of taking care of themselves, and humans deserve to be on their own, and the rulers should not come and get involved in their lives. Okay, this is how liberalism came. So the liberal approach to the state is practically making sure the state does not violate our rights. The state does not violate the individual sphere, the circle we have, the sphere that we have. The ruler should not violate that. That's the whole idea. Okay, so that's how liberalism started off. Then there's the question that what liberalism should be doing, what liberalism is expecting the state to be doing, to be exact, right? What does liberalism assign to the state? It'll be like, okay, so the state is not supposed to get interfere with our lives. Understand? Okay, now of course the state can't come and take away the girls, or like come and kill people or tell you what to do and all that, right? So what does the state do? They asked. So in the beginning they were like, okay, you know what? Why did we establish a state in the first place? Right? To keep things in order in the society, right? Going with the social contract theory. We needed to keep things in order, right? Which is why we have the state right now. So let's keep the state for that only, keeping things in order. Okay. Making sure that there's law and order in the society. Law and order, maintaining law and order. That is your only duty. State is there to protect law and order. That's it. Okay. Nothing else. Then the state was like, okay, what about helping people economically? It's like, no need. What about like, providing charity and all the services? Like, no need. None of that. Just stay away. State, we had it with you for the past couple of centuries. You were getting involved in our lives and you were making our lives miserable. Thank you very much. Now stay away. All right, stay away and let us take care of ourselves. You have one job. One job. Just protect law and order. That's enough. Protect law and order. That's enough. Okay. That's what they said. So this was the classic liberal time. That means that the state was staying away from everything. Now think of a policeman. Now imagine something like this. Imagine that I am a poor man. I am a poor man living on the streets. Okay. Now think of Ranali as a policeman. Wait, policewoman. Sorry, policewoman. Okay. Now think Ranali is a policewoman. Okay. So I'm a poor man. I'm sitting on the road. Light I'm staying. Okay. So Ranali comes. She's patrolling and she's coming. She's a police officer. Okay. What is her job? If I'm starving without food, is it her job to give me food? No. Let's say I'm having a fever, or I'm not well. Is it her duty to give me medicine? She may give me food out of like good heart. That's like a personal gesture, right? It doesn't come in a job description to give food to people who are starving on the road. Okay. So she will just pass me without giving me food or medicine. I won't be expecting that from her either because I know she's a policeman. Her duty is to protect me, right? Now imagine, let's say Dhyani comes to rob me. Now I don't have anything. I only have this box I'm sleeping in. Dhyani is also someone who's on the road. Like she doesn't have a box to sleep in. So she comes to beat me up and take my box away. Okay. Right? Then Ranali will come and, hey, no, you're not doing that. And she'll protect me. She'll make sure that I don't lose the box I sleep in, cardboard box I sleep in. And she'll put Dhyani in jail for trying to steal my cardboard box, right? That comes in her job description. Yes, she's there to protect law and order, assure that there's justice. That's it. So this is exactly what the state was supposed to do during the classic liberal times, right? It's not there to give you food if you are starving. It's not there to give you medicine if you are unwell. It's not there to give you housing if you are homeless. It's not there to give you a job if you are unemployed. None of that. State is not there to help you. State is there to protect law and order. Simple as that, right? Now, why did it happen like this? Because the liberalists said, you know what? Humans are capable of taking care of themselves. You don't have a job, people will find jobs. You don't have food, people will find food. People will find a way, okay? You just stay away, state. People will take care of it. Okay. Now, do you think this was a good idea? It wasn't. Obviously, people weren't capable of taking care of themselves. Under this system, poor people became poorer and poorer and poorer, whereas rich people became richer and richer and richer. Okay. So under that situation, there were rich people who owned factories and stuff. What did they do? They got these people to work. Like they were like, okay, you need to work in our factories 20 hours a day. Then people are like, how can we work 20 hours? We need like what, 6 hours, 7 hours of sleep and like maximum 12, 13. I can't be working more than that. Ideally, we should be working like 10 hours a day. And if we are working more than that, you should be paying us overtime. Right? You should be paying us overtime. Right? And the factory will be like, no, we are not going to pay you overtime. And you know what? We are going to pay you like 7 cents for each hour that you work. You'll be like, no, that's way less. You are supposed to pay me at least like what, $3 an hour. What do you mean like 7 cents? You're like, no, we are paying you 7 cents. If you don't want this job, you may go out. There are more than enough unemployed people who's willing to take this job. Okay. Then these people are like, okay, these people are definitely exploiting us, right? Underpaying us, not giving us leave, getting us to work in more hours than we should be working, right? Who should we complain? Let's go complain to the state. And they went to the state and complained, hey, these people are robbing us, like these people are exploiting us. What should we do? State was like, I'm sorry, I was asked to just protect law and order. And there's nothing I can do. I'm sorry. If these people actually, beat you up or something like that, then we can come and arrest these people. That's how things went. Poor people were exploited left, right, and center, whereas the rich people were getting richer and richer and richer and richer. And poor people are going even more poorer. Have you guys read this book or seen this play or watched this movie called Oliver Twist? Oliver Twist is about this boy who lives on the street, right? This poor boy. So that's about classic liberalism. That shows the hardships the poor people had to go through during the classic liberal times. Okay. So obviously this wasn't a good choice. This wasn't. This sounds like this, okay? Imagine that you have like very controlling parents. And it's something that most of you can relate to, I guess, right? Imagine you have like very controlling parents who wants to control everything, like, what you watch, what you wear, what you eat, where you sleep, who you associate and all that. At one point you'll be like, okay, you know what? You are just here to protect me. Just protect me if someone tries to rob me or like hit me or whatever, right? Just stay away, protect law and order and stay away. I am capable of taking care of myself, and you move out, right? Then you realize that, you can't earn, you don't have enough food, you are starving, right? You don't have money for a blanket, you are shivering in the night, right? And all that. And that's what happened, right? So people were being a little cocky like that. They're like, state, you stay away. We'll take care of ourselves. And then we realize, you know what? We can't take care of ourselves. Okay. So in the same time, around like 1915, 16, 17, during that time, in the Eastern Hemisphere of the world, something important happened. In 1917, to be exact, the Russian Revolution. The Russian Revolution took place. With Russian Revolution, there was this bearded guy that we normally refer to. Even today, we shared a couple of memes about him in the group. Karl Marx. He wrote a book. No one really took that book that serious at that time. But in 1917, someone put this book into action, right? The Russians put this into action via Lenin, Leon Trotsky, and Joseph Stalin. They put this book into action and they established a communist regime in the Soviet Union, right? In Russia, where they collected some other countries and created the Soviet Union. So all of a sudden, you're like, whoa, we have something new. We have something new. If we had Instagram, Twitter back then, it would have been like hashtag communism. It was like a trend. Okay. So communism was becoming the next big thing now. Now people will be like, hey, look, liberalism told us that all of us are equal. All of us like get the equal opportunities and we all have our freedom. But in reality, not really. Rich people are like living off our backs and we are suffering. I heard that in Soviet Union, all of them are equal. I heard that the government controls all the money and everybody gets an equal share of profit. That sounds so cool. Like we don't have to suffer like this. Let's try that. Let's embrace socialism. So with like people liking socialism and communism more because it sounded more lucrative, because it talks about everyone being equal, and people who suffered under liberalism, they were like, you know what? This sounds excellent. Let's embrace this. And the liberals had to find a way to keep their people in. They were like, okay, oh my God. Now people are going towards communism. We have to do something to keep our people. Okay. And they were like, okay, you know what? What if we change what liberalism does? And change that they did. So all this time they kept the state a policeman. Now they're changing that to an agent of welfare. They'll be like, okay, you know what? State is not a policeman anymore. Now classic liberalism is over. We are moving on to modern liberalism, which means this is about the state taking care of people. Taking care of people, right? What does that mean? Now, of course, you know, when it comes to state, right? Back in the day, state was simply taking care of law and order. That means they didn't care about people who are starving or people who need health care, whatever. No one really cared about that. Okay. Now, this is going to change now. State is going to be there to help you. Okay. Now, back in the day, what was the case? Now, back in the day, I was a poor person, right? I was a poor man living on the road, right? Let's say Janisha was like some rich lady. Okay. Janisha was a rich lady wearing one of those Titanic side right? Wearing those are long, what do you call those clothes, and like with the cigarette on that long holder, right? And she's having champagne and like hamburgers and all those like really expensive food. Okay, while I'm a poor man, like I'm sitting under this thing. I don't even have money to buy a piece of bread. Okay, and and Ranali, being the police officer, she walks by. She's like, Janisha has food. Gimhan doesn't. I don't care. Unless like Dhyani comes and tries to rob Gimhan off of his like cardboard box, I don't have to get involved, right? Because my job description is being a police officer. So she just passes by, right? Now under modern liberalism, that's not the case. Now under modern liberalism, Ranali is not anymore a police officer. She's an agent of welfare, right? That means she would come, she would take a look, she'd be like, Janisha is having all the food. Gimhan is starving. Fine. So Janisha can afford food, Gimhan can't. Fine. Let me give you food off of my expense. on my expense. She would come and give me like, okay, I'll give you some food, but I can't get you like really expensive stuff like Janisha does, but I'll give you some reasonably good food, right? These on me. I'll be spending money and giving food to people who starve. So this is the idea of welfare, right? Welfare means that people who don't have access to basic life standards, giving it for free. Okay? Rich people, you all have houses. Poor people, you all are homeless. I will give you houses on my money. Rich people, rich kids, you all can go to schools. You all can afford education. Poor kids, you all can't afford education. You all can't go to schools. Fine. I'll open up a school, call that a state school, government school. You all can come here and learn for free. Right? Rich people, you all can afford healthcare. You all can go to a private hospital and get your treatments. Fine. I'll open a government hospital, a state hospital, which is on me. Right? And I'll give medicine, medical care for free. Poor people can come and get medical care. Rich people, you all can afford vehicles. Poor people, you all can't afford vehicles. I'll put like the CTB, like, buses, right? Buses and trains on my account. You all can pay like a very small amount and take the transport. These are what you call welfare services, providing basic life standards to people who don't have access. So rich people can afford, poor people are given welfare services, all are equal. Rich kids, poor kids, both will get education. Rich people, poor people, both will get healthcare. This is the idea of welfare. So this is how the welfare state went. Okay. By the way, when it comes to that classic liberal period where our state was a policeman, there is a kind of like a difficult word that they use, laissez-faire state. You will come across that in the upcoming lessons. They call that the laissez-faire state, right? Laissez-faire, L-A-I-Z-Z-U-R-E, laissez-faire, right? Don't worry, it will be there in the upcoming notes, right? Laissez-faire, that means it's a policeman sort of state. Laissez-faire is the opposite of welfare, right? Laissez-faire means not doing anything, restraining from all the activities. Welfare means getting involved and doing everything. So this literally meant that if the people come and complain to the state saying we have a problem, state should definitely give a solution. Unless it is a personal problem, of a person, as long as it is a common problem, the state should give a solution. Okay. Unless it's a personal problem, like, I'm having relationship issues, I am having bad energy with my siblings, right? Those kind of things, those are personal issues, right? Not like that, right? But education, health, or transport, or whatever, as long as it's a public issue, common issue, the state should have a solution for that. Okay. Now, here's the thing. There is a little problem. Providing education for free, providing healthcare for free, providing transport for small price, and all that, housing for free, this is going to be expensive, right? Imagine giving education to an entire country for free. Do you even have any idea how expensive that is? Okay. Now think of me. I am just one person, right? I am just one individual. I schooled for 13 years. And I was in university for 6 years. I was supposed to stay for 4, but I took leave in the middle. So I was there for 6 years, right? So that's 19 years of education. I went to government school for 13 years and I went to a government university for 6 years, University of Colombo. Okay. And I haven't paid a cent to my education. Government paid for my whole education. Okay. Can you imagine if I schooled for 13 years in the USA and I was in college for 6 years in USA? It would have cost I don't know, in Sri Lankan rupees, that would have cost more than 20-25 million rupees. Insanely expensive in those countries, right? And of course, you guys must be having relatives and cousins and all friends who do low degrees in RI. Don't they cost 2 million at least? 2 million, 2.5 million, 3 million. I got my LLB for free. I got my law degree for free. How? The government paid for it, right? So there were 250 batchmates with me in the university. So each of us got a degree which was worth like 3 million in my batch alone. So there were 1,000 students in the university at the same time. Now they have increased it. Now they are taking, back in my day, they took 250. Now they are taking like 325 something. Okay. And that's just me. I'm just one student. Every year they take like 12,000, 13,000 students into the universities. And every student gets at least like that degree is worth 1 million. Can you imagine the money it requires for the government? It's not easy. Healthcare. One of my friends, she lives in Los Angeles, right? She said that her sister had a flu, and like this was like 2018. So it was like not COVID or anything. She just had like a bad flu. And she said, like, you had to go to the hospital and they have the health insurance system. So from Sri Lankan currency, they've spent like 700,000, like around 7 lakhs for a flu, the hospital bills. Okay. So healthcare is expensive in those countries. You need health insurance. You need insurance because without insurance, paying out of hand is not even optional in those countries. Okay. If you are a Breaking Bad fan, if you all have seen Breaking Bad, or if you have at least heard of Breaking Bad, it's like a chemistry teacher who starts having cancer, right? And he can't pay for his treatments. So he starts like making meth. He becomes a drug dealer. That's the story is about, right? How the chemistry teacher starts making drugs and starts selling drugs and how he turns into a bad person. But it shows that the levels you have to go to survive in those countries. So being Sri Lankan is like most of the times, to be very honest, being Sri Lankan is nothing to be proud of. But this is one area that we definitely can be proud of because keep in mind, Sri Lanka is the only country in the world. Okay, you have 194 United Nations member countries, including non-UN members. You have 206 countries, right? Out of all, Sri Lanka is the only country where you get 100% free education and 100% free healthcare. Only country in the world where you can get your healthcare and education both for free, 100% free, right? So that's one of the reasons very difficult to develop Sri Lanka because we spend a lot of money on education and health. But at least it has kept the country in good standards now, especially under a situation like COVID. You can imagine if we didn't have free healthcare, like how heavier the hit would have been, right? At least that these politicians are somewhat incapable of completely corrupting the country because at least our education levels are good thanks to free education. And our literacy rate is like the second highest in South Asia. Okay. So anyways, that you guys understand, this is extremely expensive, right? Extremely expensive. So where do you find this money? Now, going back to that same example, now Ranali is the state, right, in our example. So back in the day, she didn't have to spend that much of money. Why? She only had one duty. She only had to protect me from Dhyani, who's going to beat me up and take away my cardboard box, right? Okay, so like technically speaking, like protecting the people, protecting law and order. So under such circumstances, the state only has to protect law and order, which is not that expensive. That means like you have to sustain the police forces, right? Police force, the army and the tri-forces, and the court system. That's it, not that expensive. So if you tax the rich people a little, like a slight tax from the rich people would be enough. That's enough money for you to protect law and order. But now imagine protecting law and order plus giving away all these welfare services, providing education, providing healthcare, providing housing. As I told you, I just gave an example to see how expensive a single person's education would be, right? Imagine like providing free education for everyone. So now it is expensive. Where do you find the money? Taxing is not enough. Because you only have like 20% of the rich people in the country. Taxing these people is not enough anymore. What do you do then? How do you find that money that you need, the money that is required for you to provide this free healthcare and free education. One way is taking taxes, taking more taxes. The other way, hold on one second. Right. So when it comes to modern liberalism, they've had to find a way to find their funds to provide this education and healthcare and all that. So first of all, what they did was they increased the taxes. They started taxing people more, a little more than they used to. Okay. But secondly, these taxes weren't enough. That was the issue. These taxes weren't enough, right? Because as you guys know, you have like 20% of rich people. And the number of people aren't enough for you to tax all these people, right? So they were like, let's start having some businesses, right? The state would be starting some businesses, okay? Now, let's say that going back to the same example, okay? Now imagine Senumi has a shop there, right? Okay, they're going back to the same picture, right? That Ranali being a police officer, right? And me living on the road in a box, right? And Dhyani is also living there without a box, right? Trying to steal the box I have, okay? And Janisha, of course, being rich and privileged and having all those food with a new haircut, right? Then Ranali's duty is to make sure that I am also fed, right? That I am also fed because Janisha has the affordability to afford food and I don't. Okay, now imagine that Senumi is there. She has a shop. So she's a merchant, right? She's from the merchant class. So she'll be selling stuff in her shop. What would she do when she gets a profit? She would be reinvesting that to have a better shop, right? To improve her shop even more. She would use the profit she gets to create more profit because she's a private entrepreneur. Now, given that Ranali is in need of money to give me food and healthcare, she will also start a shop. She'll be like, okay, this is a government-owned business. I have a business here. I also sell stuff, right? But when she gets money, when she gets profit from that shop, she's not going to use that money to improve her shop. Instead, she's going to spend that money to provide me welfare services. Me and Dhyani, of course, like, we are the poor people in this example, right? So this is what the state did. State started businesses so they can earn profit and use that profit to provide welfare services. What are the government-owned businesses you guys know? Satosa. You all know Satosa, right? Like Food City, there is another supermarket called Satosa. That's a government-owned shop, right? So Food City, when they earn money, they use that money to make more profit. What about Satosa? When they earn money, they use that money to provide welfare services to the poor people. Understand? That is the difference. Okay? So when you get that profit you are making from welfare services, profit you are making from government businesses, and the taxes you are taking from the upper class, when you put that together, you have enough money to provide welfare services. Where did all this start going wrong? It didn't work, although this sounds good on paper. Okay. Do you think that Satosa can compete with Food City? Think from your personal experience. Do you think Satosa is even anywhere near what Food City does? Nowhere near, right? For example, in Food City, have you ever seen in Food City, they have those vegetables chopped and with a wrapping and all that, they have chopped vegetables, chopped fruits and all that. Why is that? It's because if you have vegetables with one side rotten, you don't throw it away. You just chop the rotten part and you throw that away, and the remaining part you just chop it and you sell it separately. Right? So in Satosa, this doesn't apply. Right? In Satosa, this doesn't apply. Why? In Satosa, like because in food city, if they throw away food, then that might come off the paycheck of this person, right? But in Satosa, it doesn't happen like that because Satosa people are government workers, so they are very particular on that, like, and they get their rights and all that, so workers' rights and all that. So in Satosa, they throw away food and meat and yogurts and whatnot, like things get expired, they just throw away. No one is bothered. If you go to food city, okay, it's like there is a rule. If someone comes and asks you where to find a particular thing, right? You need to walk that person up to the product. If I go and ask the person, like, where can I find toothbrushes? He can't be telling me, just third dial like that. He has to walk me to the toothbrush place. That's a policy. Okay. But in Satosa, if the person, if I go and ask, like, can I find the toothbrush? Like, we might have, we might not, like, just check somewhere. Because, like, the rules aren't stuff there, right? Because the government workers and the government is lenient on their workers. So because of these reasons, the government businesses stood no chance to private sector. I think the best example is thinking about how Satosa and Food City work, right? Does Satosa even stand a chance with Food City? No, not even close. Okay. So because of that, what happened in the end was these government businesses, which were created, which were established to, so like create profit, is running at a loss now. Now think of Ranali's situation here. She is supposed to, provide food and healthcare to me and Dhanina. Okay. So she was like, okay, I am taxing from Janisha. It's not enough. So I am starting a business. So she started a shop, but that shop can't compete with Senumi's shop. So that shop is running at a loss. Now she has to run that shop and provide welfare services. This is the story of Sri Lanka. This is why Sri Lanka is struggling financially. Number one, we are providing so many healthcare, we providing so many welfare services, healthcare and education and all that, which is so costly. And whatever the institutes we have created to give us some profit is also running at a loss. There are two burdens. Okay, so what do? You tax people even more. You tax people even more. And what do you do when that is also not enough? Then what do? You have to take loans, which is why Sri Lanka is running at a huge number of loans. Okay, Sri Lanka is running at loans as a result of this reason. Okay, to provide welfare services and to run these businesses. Okay. So by this time, people started realizing, okay, you know what? Modern liberalism is not working as I expected. Doesn't really work out as we expected. Too bad, right? And they realized that the popular kid who came from the other side, communism, has lost its popularity. Communism is not popular anymore. By 1980s, by 70s, 80s, the Cold War came to an end and communism ended. Communism failed. So liberalism realized modern liberalism doesn't work, and they realized their competitor, communism, is not there anymore. They were like, okay, you know what? We don't have to be helping people anymore this way. Maybe we are free to sort of like take a step back. Okay. And that's what they did. They shifted to neoliberalism. From modern liberalism to neoliberalism. Now, what does neoliberalism do? They don't get involved in everything like the modern liberalism does. Neither they are not getting involved in anything like classic liberalism did. They are like, we will get involved if it's necessary only. Okay. That means that now Ranali tried being a police officer, doing nothing other than protecting law and order. Then she tried being a welfare agent, supporting me and everything. Now she's like, I'm going to play the middle. I'm not going to take care of you in everything. Neither I'm not going to completely neglect you either, right? I will come and get involved if necessary only. If necessary only. Okay. So under neoliberalism, state became a managerial figure, a manager, policeman to welfare agent to manager, right? So in this, the state has two friends. State takes the support of two friends. Okay. Ranali is taking support of two friends, right? Januda and Buddhima. I'll be leaving out the new people from the example. Let's give them also a chance. Okay, now Ranali has two friends, Januda and Buddhima. What do? One of them, now Ranali has two problems, right? One is her shop is running at a loss. Other one is she needs to provide welfare services to the poor people. She's going to hand over one duty to one, other duty to the other. So who are these two friends the state is having? Number one, NGOs, non-governmental organizations. Second friend, private sector. Okay, so state will be like, okay, I have a problem right now. Okay, first of all, I have a problem providing welfare service to these people. Hey, NGOs, buddy, can you handle this for me? NGOs, can you handle these welfare services for me? You do this, let me know if there's anything. I'll help you. Okay. Second, you'll be like, okay, I have another problem. My shops are running at a loss. Private sector, can you help me with this? Can you make sure these shops earn a bigger amount? Right? So what the government would do is like, okay, I have to provide education. I have to provide health. Okay. How do I do that? NGOs, I'll take the support of NGOs. UN, can you help me? UNICEF, can you take care of the education? UNESCO, can you take care of the education system? Red Cross, can you take care of the health services? Can you take care of the World Health Organization? Can you take care of the hospitals? You hand it over to them. I'll be like, if you need any help, let me know. I'll help you. On the other side, you'll be like, okay, Satosa is running at a loss. What do I do? Food City, Cargill's. Why don't you take Satosa to your administration and make sure that Satosa earns some profit, and we'll split that. I get 50, you get 50. What do you say? True that I'm only getting half, but that's better than running at a loss, right? You take Food City, you start administering Satosa the way you administer Food City. Make Satosa a part of the Food City chain. Make sure they earn some profit. Out of the profit, give us 50%, you take 50%. This is what neoliberalism means. Okay, so first liberalism, classic liberalism, you call it laissez-faire state. Modern liberalism, you call it welfare state. And what do you call it now? What is the current one? Minimal state. Minimal state. Okay, minimal. You have minimized. You know how you minimize an application when you're working on the laptop like that? You minimized it. You haven't opened it. You haven't closed it out. You have minimized it. So you can open it whenever you want. Okay. And that's what's going on in countries like USA and all that now. Okay. It's just Sri Lanka still opts to follow modern liberalism, which is expensive but it helps people. Okay. Right. Any questions, guys? Anything? No, right? Should be clear, I guess. Okay, right. So let's read this once more and we should be able to understand. Right, Senumi, can you read?
Liberal theory. The liberal political theory was born following the fall of feudalism. Liberalism was established alongside capitalism. The concept of individual freedom was further elaborated by the words of John Locke and Immanuel Kant to create the theory of real liberalism. Other strengthened the development of liberalism. Briefly, the development of liberalism can be summarized as follows. 1. Initially, John Locke emphasized the importance of individual freedom, which established a contracted obligation for the state to protect the life systems. Immanuel Kant continued with the social contract theory and developed the sophisticated idea of individual autonomy. This was further developed of Locke's idea. Montesquieu took this further by limiting the powers of the government through the concept of separation of powers. Jeremy Bentham was the first liberal thinker to bring the role of the government to the modern liberal theory of the state. This was due to social issues and mass poverty caused by classic liberalism. Bentham suggested the welfare state of that word.
Which one?
Welfare state and
Utilitarianism.
For social welfare as the role of the state. Therefore, we can see that the concept of liberalism has evolved through many stages in history. These stages can be categorized as follows. This means the state should protect and promote individual freedom. The state and government were separated during this period, and the state merely protected law and order and did not do anything beyond that. Modern liberal, this is also known as post-classical, new liberal, or at times welfare state. This period focused on government intervention to ensure social welfareism. The contributions of T.H. Green and Leonard Hobhouse are important in this. Neoliberal. This emerged during 1980s following the failure of welfare states. This basically was return to free market capitalism with limited government. This was commonly known as minimalist state. Should I read further?
No, that's all. So liberalism, that's the idea of liberalism. Do you guys have any questions from liberalism? Anything at all? Anything to clarify? Any part you don't understand? So you may ask. All cool, right? Right, so that's liberalism. Actually, there's a lot to explain in liberalism, which is why it took a little longer. Then feminism, nothing much to be explained, so it won't take that long, right? So we'll take a small break for about 3 minutes, and then we'll continue with the feminist approach. Right. Normally, when it comes to feminist theory, right, what's new to study here is first of all, the whole idea of the term gender. The term gender, they define the term gender as not something that is simply connected to biological differences, right? Because normally we refer to the term gender as sex, male or female, right? But gender, of course, we are referring to mostly we are referring to the identity we have, the identity, gender, right? When you say biological differences, that refers to the body organs we have, right? But the term gender, they talk about the socially constructed differences, right? As we discussed before about like girls having long hair and boys having short hair, girls piercing their ears, and when boys pierce their ears, that being considered as like indecent, right? Things like that, right? So those factors, like these things are okay for a boy to do, these things are not okay for a boy to do, right? You know, crying is a girly thing, riding bikes or drinking and smoking are boys' things, right? Barbie dolls are girl toys. Or like, you know, guns or soldier baskets, those are like cars or stuff, they are boy toys. So these things are socially constructed differences as men and women. So feminism refuses this idea, they criticize this idea, and they say there's the whole idea of creating a social identity for a man and a woman is wrong, whereas those things should be okay for everyone. Things should be genderless, right? Toys or vehicles or stuff, you shouldn't like divide them as male or female. Okay. Also, they criticize the romanticization of male and female biological differences, right? So they're talking about how, strong men are, like men having like broad shoulders and strong biceps and all those things, and women having slim bodies and all that. Those biological differences sort of being like glorified. They are not okay with that, because more and more because in the general identity, a man is known as good looking when he's stronger, physically stronger. And in the traditional idea of a woman looking good is like normally a woman with like muscles and like biceps and all that. The society doesn't romanticize that, right? The society would romanticize a slim girl, someone who's not physically strong, a girl who is like physically weak. That is known as the romanticized look of a female. So they are not for that. These feminists, they practically say that further emphasizes the male supremacy of women. Men are ideally should be stronger, women should be like weaker. That they are against that idea being generalized. Okay. So of course they talk about the idea of patriarchy, like the society is sort of like going with the idea of like the families being led by the father, right? Like you learn that every family is led by the father, and that sort of gives you the idea from a younger age that men are superior to women, and they criticize that idea, right? So when it comes to that, they believe this is a systematic oppression of women, and in the end, like the male authority and the dominance is even more secured, whereas women tend to get more marginalized and more oppressed. So, of course, we know that feminism is pretty much criticized for not being united properly, as like there are different groups, different streams, and liberal, radical, communist, and like they are criticized as like these three groups are the main three streams of feminist schools. Right. So we've studied before, like the liberal feminists were the ones who went for basic rights for women, and the radical feminists were the ones who talked about sexual suppression. The communist feminists are the ones who don't really support the idea of women fighting for their rights, because they believe that the main goal should be fighting for the liberation of all the working class people. Right? They sort of believe that this idea of women's rights were created by rich people. It's a trick played by the rich people to distract the working class women from identifying their real enemy. Okay. So, however, feminists, of course, like they believe that patriarchy is sort of like a part of capitalism, right? They don't deny that there's something called patriarchy, and however, they connect that also to capitalism and say if you attack capitalism and if you sort of like, if you manage to win the liberation for the working class people, if you enter the advanced communist era that we discussed earlier, if you enter that, that means that you will have rights for women as well, right? So your problems will be solved anyway when we solve the problems of everyone. So that's what they say. However, when you look at the feminist theory compared to the three theories we discussed before, this kindly has nothing to do with the state, in fact, right? Because liberalism, socialism, and social contract theory all talked about state directly. But here, this is not directly about the state, because feminist theory does not have its own theory on the state. They are sort of like looking at it from a power aspect, right? So they don't exactly address what the state is, how the state came into existence, what the state does. They are looking at the place women have and the political system in the society, how it sort of marginalizes women and how it emphasizes male dominance. That's what they're looking at. Okay, right. So we'll read it once more, and it should make more sense to you.
I have a question.
Yes, ask.
So there's this term going around called intersectional feminism. I don't really know what it is, but one thing I've noticed is that most intersectional feminists are women of color, and they almost always have beef with white feminists.
Mm-hmm.
What is that like?
Well, when you look at feminism, there are like more than 15,000 different groups of feminists. So this is one of those groups, right? So they sort of have beef with like white feminists for sort of like disregarding the issues of like women in color and looking at like white women problems. Right? That's what they say, right? The problems white women have, like maybe like the uh, prices of what like whatever these corn being high or stuff like that, right? So like I'm just coming with an example. So there are certain things that uh, white women have as problems, and the criticism says that white women are only concerned about that, right? So like maybe like Oscars not being like Oscar more Oscars and Golden Globes going for men, right? More Grammy awards going for men, things like that, right? The women in color say no, like there are bigger problems than that, like women in color not being able to do jobs, like them being sexually exploited, them being like sold for slavery, these drug rings sort of like kidnapping these Latino girls, right? Black women having to go through suppression and all that. So those problems are heavier. That's what they say. So they normally say like white women are concerned about like not having enough women in Oscars or Grammys or things like that. So they say they criticize white feminists for that, right? That's not directly connected to us, but it is somewhat connected here because with that you can see there are so many different groups of feminists, which is the biggest problem they have. They don't have a unity among the followers, which is the reason that feminism having this many followers in the world, they have sort of failed to make like a proper impact in the world as a result of this, the fact that they don't have a unity and they sort of have conflicts among themselves, right? We'll talk about this in unit 5 when we study about the feminist ideology separately, okay? Right. Shall we get someone to read? Janu, will you be able to read?
Okay, sir. Feminist theory. The feminist political theory does not have its own theory of the state. It is more of a theory of power that can be applied to state. Gender is a core theoretical category of feminism. The term gender is not limited to biological differences, but rather socially constructed as differences between men and women. Feminism strongly criticizes and rejects gendering human relations on the basis of biological differences in sex. It further criticizes romanticization of male and female biological differences as it leads to ideologies and structures of male supremacy over women. Thus, the concept of gender is a socially constructed system of unequal power relations between men and women. On this basis, male authority and dominance is secured and women are marginalized and oppressed. According to feminists, patriarchy is the key social institution that reproduces gender-based inequalities and oppression. As a theory, feminism is not united with its followers, and it has many groups in different streams. Liberal, radical, and communist can be considered as the three main feminist schools. Due to the absence of a specific feminist theory of the state, the approach of the feminists to the state has to be identified either with liberalism or Marxism. The Marxist feminists as well as liberal feminists both believe that the state is an instrument of male domination and that it is essentially an embodiment of patriarchy. The key difference between these two is that Marxist feminists see patriarchy as linked to capitalism and argue for the abolishment of capitalism for the emancipation of women. In contrast, liberal feminists argue for reforming the patriarchy through legal and policy reform. The feminist movement throughout the world have also emerged as major social and political movements in the contemporary world. However, it has suffered and continues to suffer from lacking unity as a movement and also from heavy criticism.
Right, that's pretty much it. As you can see, the feminist theory is not that difficult to pick, unlike the liberal socialist and ones. Anyway, we will be thoroughly discussing about feminist ideology. Unless you guys have any other questions, we should be able to wrap up.